YouTube, it's Alex Combow here again. I'm coming at you guys today with yet another graphic design video. Today I wanted to do a little bit more in depth than I did before, and I want this to kind of be a 4-part series, so it's going to get a little bit more complex. So let's go ahead and get this started because it's going to take a little bit longer. As I said before, I like to do 1280 by 720 points when I create a background, so let's go ahead and create. So now what we're going to do, now that we have this background, is we're going to go ahead and press Control R. So Control R opens up the rulers. So if we take a ruler, we can go ahead and drag it down, and we'll put it right here. And by the way, if you can't see your rulers when you do this, press Control semicolon, and you'll be able to see it just fine. So next, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and go to View, and we want to go to Guides, and you want to make sure that your guides are currently unlocked. So with that being done, go ahead and select your guide and hold down Alt and Shift and drag it down. Okay, so now you've got the top point and the bottom point of your logo. So what you're going to do is do this again, hold Alt and Shift to create a duplicate of your guide, and then go ahead and select your guide, press R to get to your rotate tool, and then hold Shift to do 45-degree angles and rotate it just like this. So release it, put it down, and then go back to your selection tool, do the same thing, duplicate this guide and get it to be just about there. So what I'm doing is I'm actually going to be creating an R for you guys today. So this is kind of the baseline. You can set the guides up afterwards or beforehand or while you're going on, and what I usually like to do is kind of create them while I move. So let's go ahead and get zoomed in here. So press Z to get to your zoom tool, and then press P to get to your brush. So if I look over here at my swatches, I don't have any stroke selected, so I usually like to go one below the darkest one over here, just so that it's not completely dark. And then let's go ahead and line this up right here with this line, and then press select, and then do another 45-degree angle, and we'll drag it down as far as we want to go. I'll say here is probably pretty good. If you want to put a guide here, you can go ahead and do that, and then that will let you know where you're going beforehand. So now drag this down just like so, and then create where you want to go, put that down there. So now if we look at this, it's a little bit off from the guide, so what I'm actually going to do is line this up with the guide here by doing this. I'm going to hold Shift down, and with my direct selection tool, I'm going to go ahead and drag these in and line them up with the guide like so. Okay, so next what happened here is this is actually just a little bit too in, so I'm going to pull this out, kind of have that bubble look. Okay, and just to make sure that this is lined up, I'm going to go ahead and grab it with my direct selection tool. Yep, it's perfectly lined up with that guide there. So next what I'm going to do is press this here, line it up with the guide, put a line right there, and go ahead and put that in there, and then choose a point here. Go ahead and pull this out over here, and then let go of it right there. And like I said, I like to put my guides on while I go, so what I'm going to do is line that guide up with that right there. Okay, and then I'll put this right here, kind of in the middle of the guide, and then bring this out here. Oh, probably bring it out a little bit less than that. It's about there. Line that up. Boom, like so. Boom, that's lined up. Okay, put this one on this guide here, and then move it up to that. Okay, so if you look at this, I got the basic shape here. The only issue is this right here is not lined up with the bottom part, so that's okay. So if you put your line on the guide like so, then you can actually go ahead and pull this out if you want. But if you look at this, when you pull it out, it looks a little exaggerated. So what we can do is pull this out here like so, by grabbing all of these points and pulling them out. Next, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and line this up right here with the guide, like so. Like so. Okay, and same thing goes for the bottom one here. Line that up with that. Now what we got here is a shape that's not quite what we want, so what I'm gonna do is pull this out here, just like so. And then go ahead and actually pull this handle down here. And what we have here is a shape that's more or less what we want. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna go ahead and line up this guide here with this anchor right here. And then we'll line up this guide here with this anchor right here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and put a point here, and we'll pull it up a little bit. Doesn't really matter how much. I wanna pull it up a little more. And then we'll hold down shift to do a 45-degree angle here. And then go down here, line it up here. And we got ourselves a little shape. Oops, looks like I need to actually put a stroke on that. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and hide the guides because I don't really need them anymore. And yeah, that looks pretty good. That looks about like how I wanted it to look. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna make this bigger to where it takes up a lot of the screen. And I would say as far as strokes go, 12 is a little too much, so let's go ahead and do 10. That looks pretty good. So now we're gonna choose a stroke color, and we're gonna choose a fill color. So as far as the stroke goes, I'm gonna do something a little bit lighter, and then for the fill, I'm gonna go ahead and choose a sort of tannish orange color, and I'm gonna make my own color here. You can follow my color or you can do whatever you want. Make sure you hit this preview button so that you can actually see what you're doing while you make your color. And I'm just gonna give it a little bit of an orangish color to it and a little bit of a tannish, and I'm gonna try and make it a little dull like so. So that is about the color that I wanted to go for there. And what I'm going to go ahead and do now is put a background on this. So drag at that corner over to this corner and go ahead, and if you hold down Control and the bracket buttons, then you can control what's in front of what that way. So we'll go ahead and push this all the way back to the back, and then we'll go ahead and cross out the stroke here so it doesn't have any stroke. And we'll give it a reddish background color. I'm going to make this again a little bit of a duller color. So we're going to go orangish red here, dull it out a little bit here, make it a little bit more red there. And just a little bit more orange right about there. That looks pretty good. So if you notice, this doesn't quite have the right chemistry, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is darken this line here and this line here. And actually, I'm going to combine these together and make them a group, and you do that by pressing Control G. So now they're a group, and if we look at this, this isn't quite dark enough. Whoops. So what I'm going to do is just darken this just a little bit here. Make sure you hit that preview button. And do that and make it a little bit duller. And there we go. Okay, so that's about as dark as I want the logo to go. So what's going to happen next is I'm actually going to add a texture onto this. And the way you do that is you go up to Window, and then you go up and you select the Transparency button. I already had it over here, so I have to do it again to put it back. And once you do that, you click Make Mask. Now, one thing that I always do wrong here is after you press Make Mask, you have to go over and select this black box right here. So go ahead and click that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to File, and then we'll go to Place. And don't mind all of this stuff I have here. So now I'm going to go ahead and choose my image here that I put in the background and place it right there and kind of find a good point here where I want it to kind of sit. just like so, and we'll go ahead and we don't want to invert it. It looks pretty good like that. So what I want to do now is, now that I'm still on this mask screen, what I'm going to do is kind of darken it a little bit. So if I do a dark color, then decrease the opacity, we'll put it at about 15. That looks good. So that's just kind of a little bit of an extra texture there. You really don't have to do that, but it adds a little bit more character to it. So next, what I'm going to do is go back to this, and believe it or not, I'm actually going to choose a darker line color. That's a little too dark for me, so I'm going to kind of go in between the two different colors that I had before. So let's do that. That's pretty good. I think that has a pretty good chemistry with the rest of the art. So what I'm going to do now is add a shadow. So I'm going to select this part of the picture right here and hold down Alt to duplicate it, and hold down Shift to put it at a 45-degree angle and put it right there. And then I'm actually going to hold down Control and my bracket key to put it behind the artwork, and I'm going to try and put it as far back as I possibly can. And I'm going to go ahead and delete my line and put in a dark color there and decrease the opacity to about 50%. It's not quite where I want it, so I'm going to use my lighter shade there and go up to, let's do 65%. Okay, so that looks pretty good, so next, what I'm going to do is go to File, Place, and I'm going to get my brick wall picture that I have here and go ahead and put it to where it goes into the background and drag it up here, and then I'm going to put it behind the shadow and behind the picture and decrease the opacity to about 8%. So it's there, and it adds a little bit of character to the picture, but it's not a big difference. Now if you look at this, the background of this is actually kind of showing through, and that is because, see, the shadow here is kind of showing through, and that is because this black part here is in the background. So because of that, I'm actually going to kind of decrease the opacity to 5% so that it darkens it, and it still adds that light texture right there. I like how that looks, and it still adds that there, just kind of sitting there. And then the final flare that I want to add to this to really complete this logo design is a nice little border. And I do the border separate from the background because that keeps them two separate objects. When I do my borders, I always do them 30 points, just like that. Now, I want it to be kind of ahead of the picture in the background, and that's the whole reason why I'm setting it separately. So I'm actually going to hit Control 2 to shove that to lock it, and Control 2 to lock that, so I know I don't mess with either of those, and then grab this, pull this forward, put it there. That's a little too dark for my taste, so I'm going to go just a little bit brighter, like so. And if you look, that actually kind of goes with the rest of the theme of this, which is kind of not completely in your face, just kind of dull colors, if you know what I mean. And I don't want to go too over the top here, but I'm gonna go ahead and actually create a mask for this border here as well, and it's just gonna be a simple little mask, and I'm gonna do that by choosing this texture here and put it there. Go ahead and invert it, and if you look, and if I keep adjusting this like so and pull this out here, it makes the border extremely subtle. It's there for sure. We know it's there, but it doesn't really make that big of a difference. And honestly, that's the way I like my borders. I like them to just be kind of there, almost look like a ghost, you know? If you look for it, you can see it, but otherwise, you don't really see it. And that is exactly how I wanted this to turn out, and I think it turned out pretty well. If you guys like it, please like this video. Please leave a comment below. Let me know how I'm teaching you guys, how I'm showing you guys how to do these designs. If you think this is too complicated, if you think I went a little too fast or a little too slow, just let me know. And I will go ahead and leave a link to some sort of zip Dropbox or something. I haven't done this before, but I'm going to leave a link on there so that you guys can get access to the different textures that I use so that you can create this if you want to. Another little bonus tip that I can give you guys is if you actually separate this border from the rest of the logo, you can make it to where it doesn't apply the texture onto it. I'm not going to show you guys how to do that today, but it is an option. Just because of all the different layers I have going on here, it would mess up the picture if I try to do that. But it's an option, and what it essentially does is it makes it to where this texture does not get applied to the border. And for some of my other pictures, I'll put a separate texture on the border of the actual logo, but I didn't want to do that today because I have so many other textures going on and I wanted to keep this kind of simple. So if you guys want to see something like that, I'll do that in the next part. This will probably be a 4-part series, gradually getting more complicated. I wanted to keep this still kind of an intermediate level. So if you guys would go ahead and hit subscribe, support my channel, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.